Good afternoon, everyone. On this rainy April afternoon, my name is Greg Gilligan, and I'm the Vice President for Operations at RVA757 Connects. Thank you for joining us for our latest edition of the RVA757 Connects Innovation Spotlight webinar series. We have an interesting program today about a Richmond company that is revolutionizing indoor farming of salad greens. A couple of housekeeping matters. We will hear from our sponsor first, which is Branch. Then we'll do a quick update on RVA757 Connects. Then we'll delve right into today's topic, which is about Babylon microfarms revolutionizing agriculture by creating an accessible indoor microfarming solutions for growing salads, greens, and herbs and vegetables. We're going to leave time at the end for questions and answers from you, the audience, as well as from me. And finally, we'll wrap up the webinar with some what's coming up next. By the way, we do record all of our webinars, and these recordings will be on our website sometime this afternoon or first thing tomorrow morning. And also, if you have any questions, please send them to me using the chat function. RVA757 Connects is a nonprofit organization, so we rely on donations. We hear our corporate investors, and we thank them for their support of our organization. One of our corporate sponsors and today's webinar sponsor is Branch, which is one of the largest construction contractors in the Mid-Atlantic. Branch has 6 offices in Virginia, including offices in the Richmond region and in Hampton Roads. As a full-service construction solutions business, Branch employs more than 1,000 workers in 3 key divisions. One division oversees site development, highway construction, and design build projects. Another division handles construction management and general contracting. And a third segment handles mechanical, electrical, and plumbing issues. Here today to tell us more about Branch is Kathy Underwood. She's Branch's Corporate Business Development Officer. She began her career at Branch after graduating with a master's degree from Virginia Tech and has served across multiple construction disciplines and departments. She began as an estimator and rose through the ranks as project manager, project executive, operations director, vice president, and ultimately president of Branch's building division. In 2023, she transitioned into her current position, where she works with the Branch leadership team to set up the strategic direction of the fast-growing company and has an opportunity to work with clients and business partners to move their visions and their projects forward. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to turn it over to Kathy to give us an update and tell us a little bit more about Branch.
Thank you, Greg. Let me share. Okay, so did not, okay. So hello, everyone. To start with just a little bit of background, I'd like to share that our CEO, Don Grahl, serves on the board of RVA757 Connects, and he actually lives in the region. I'm honored to have the opportunity to represent Branch today and speak to the members of this great organization. Branch touches all aspects of the built environment, just like Greg mentioned earlier. From the ground up, Branch is a full-service commercial construction solutions partner. We provide design build highway services and building development, construction management services. We can build structures, we do general contracting, and of course our mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and specialty metal fabrication. Branch is headquartered in Myrna, but as Greg said, we serve throughout the entire Mid-Atlantic and Southeastern US. And we have a strong presence in Richmond and Hampton Roads, and actually quite a bit of our history there. Our total revenues are around $700 million, and our workforce is over 1,200 employees now. So we're excited about the growth that we've had. We are 100% employee owned, and so every employee owner has a vested interest in the outcome of every project that we perform on. A little history in the region. The Branch history in the Hampton Roads region goes really back to 1941 when E.V. Williams was founded as a grading and concrete paving company. They were acquired by Branch in 1997, and the Hampton Roads region has really become home to many of our employee owners over those years. Our employee owners have worked on projects like Dominion Boulevard, Battlefield Boulevard, Military Highway, I-64 between Henrico and New Kent, and then the Norfolk Premium Outlet. Some of those are probably very familiar. Branch began working in the Richmond area really in the early 1990s. We've built and renovated some of the city's most recognizable buildings like the Locks, Interbank Apartments, which was a really cool project, and then Centennial Terrace. Our commitment to education is shown in our recent buildings. One of the most recent completed projects was the Henry L. Marsh Elementary School. And then in our past years, we did the renovations and additions at Providence Middle and Brooklyn Middle and a number of other schools around the area. Branch is currently working on projects in the RVA757 Connects region, including the I-64 widening and high-rise bridge. And I put a couple pictures up just for reference in case anybody was hadn't been by lately. And in addition to that, we worked on the I-64 Hampton Roads Express Lanes. That one's a mouthful. All exciting projects for the region to help connect these very congested areas and really get traffic flowing. And then finally, the Fall Line Trail project. All these have been focuses of the RVA757 Connects, and we feel privileged to have an opportunity to make a difference on projects like these. We're currently also working on Atlantic Park in Virginia Beach and the Jacob Adams Elementary School in Richmond. I'm really looking forward to hearing from our keynote today, Babylon Microfarms. We've had the pleasure of working on some vertical farm projects in the state, and there's a lot of demand on those types of buildings, and it's really exciting that they're coming to Virginia. We're uniquely positioned to help build controlled environment agricultural facilities that bring safe, sustainable, and locally grown food to Virginia. So super excited to hear from Alexander. Thank you, Greg.
Great. Thank you so much, Kathy. It was a lot of information. I didn't realize you guys were so involved in the Richmond and Hampton Roads region. So that's all wonderful. And thank you for telling us so much more about this fast-growing company. And thanks to you and also to Donald, who is your company CEO, as you mentioned, who's also a member of our board of directors. It was very, very nice that he is on our board. So let me go back to sharing our screen. So let me tell you a little bit about RVA757 Connects. We are a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to improving the economic success and quality of life for everyone in the Richmond region, which we call RVA, and Hampton Roads, we call 757. We're a network of leaders representing businesses, community, and higher education, and we are advancing the Richmond to Hampton Roads mega region as the I-64 Innovation Corridor. Our relationship can be packaged in a couple of different ways. We can be considered the 12 regional collaborators. We work together with a lot of different businesses and nonprofits as well as government organizations. We're the 12th largest mega region, and we're an innovation corridor, and that's why we call ourselves the I-64 Innovation Corridor. As you can see, we're pursuing several different priorities, including and you can learn more about these different initiatives that we have, the I-64 GAF, the multi-use trails, the Global Internet Hub, and our rail initiatives on our website at RVA757Connects.com. You get all the information about those different initiatives there. One of our top priorities is an effort to get the Richmond to Hampton Roads mega region designated as a global internet hub. A handful of locations around the world make up the World Wide Web work, and they're called global internet hubs, and all of them are thriving cities. But that's about to change. The world's next global internet hub isn't just a single city, but it's rather America's 12th mega region known as the I-64 Innovation Corridor. That extends all the way from the Richmond area all the way down to Hampton Roads. As you can see, this 3-foot by 2-foot map explains visually how the I-64 Innovation Corridor becomes global internet hub by combining the digital assets of both the Richmond region and the Hampton Roads region. The I-64 Innovation Corridor also has gained a place on the intercontinental internet map. Since 2019, this corridor has experienced a 73% compounded annual growth rate. 73%, let me repeat that, compounded annual growth rate in international internet bandwidth, according to telegeography. We also developed a strategic plan to make this happen, identifying 10 strategies to make the I-64 Innovation Corridor one of the world's recognized global internet hubs. If you'd like to get either a copy of the map that I just showed you, which also explains the various items that make up a global internet hub, as well as our strategic plan, please let me know and I'd be happy to mail you a copy of it. You can also find it on our website, globalinternethub.com, and you can click on the map to get a better idea of all the various digital assets that are available. Another initiative is to drive and support greater collaboration and innovation. And one way that we are doing that is through these monthly virtual innovation spotlight webinar series. As I mentioned, we record all of our webinars, and today's webinar will be on our website later this afternoon. You can also watch any of the webinars we have held since February of 2022. They're all on our website under the various years. Please click on them. There's a lot of great content for people to explore. And next month, we'll hold a webinar about Grenova, which is a Richmond-based company that's developed a game-changing technology with environmentally friendly solutions to reduce laboratory plastic waste. The company's president and CEO will discuss how Grenova designs, manufactures, commercializes equipment as an integrated solution to enable customers to wash and reuse those plastic pipette tips and microwell plates. And this will be on May the 1st at noon. So now let's turn to our today's topic, which is about Babylon microfarms, which is revolutionizing agriculture by creating an accessible indoor microfarming solutions for growing salad greens, herbs, and vegetables. The Richmond-based company is enabling businesses and communities to grow their own products to produce on-site through its automatic indoor hydroponic farming system. The company's customers include hospitals, senior living centers, universities, schools, institutions, food service clients like Armac, and even a cruise ship. And our speaker will talk a little bit more about that. Our speaker will give us details about Babylon's climate-controlled clear glass vertical farming case that can grow 45 plus different kinds of greens, herbs, vegetables, and flowers such as basil, kale, lettuce, and bok choy. Each modular can grow the greens and herbs 2 to 3 times faster using 90% less water than compared to outdoor farming. Today's speaker is Alexander Olson. He is the CEO of Babylon Microfarms. He co-founded Babylon Microfarms in 2017 while he and Graham Smith were students at the University of Virginia. Olson was studying social entrepreneurship. They started Babylon with the idea of growing food where it was never thought possible to provide nutritious produce for food insecure refugees. In 2022, the co-founders were named to Forbes 30 Under 30 list in the category of social impact. And just last May, Alexander got the opportunity to meet President Kamala Harris when she was touring the company's operations in Richmond's Scotts Addition neighborhood. So as I mentioned before I turn this over to Alexander, please, if you have any questions, please use the chat function and for questions, then we'll go with those after Alexander's presentation. So Alexander, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you everyone for tuning in today. So yeah, as Greg mentioned, my name is Alexander Olson. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Babylon Microfarms, and I'm going to run you through a couple slides, just giving you an overview of our service and kind of what the company does today. But before we jump into that, I just want to kind of give you a quick backstory. As Greg briefly mentioned, we started the company as third-year students at UVA. So we were pretty young, and I was introduced to the concept as a social entrepreneurship project looking at could we use hydroponic farms in refugee camps. And so through that project, we were looking at how small could a farm be to feed a person, to support a family. And that line of thinking was very different to the industry, and it still is today. The industry typically is geared towards massive scale commercial greenhouses and plant factories. And we started thinking about what would it take to develop small scale farms that could allow people to grow food on site wherever they may be. So that was the original insight. And through a lot of perseverance and sort of connecting the dots, we started the company. We were able to fund the early days and early prototypes through grant funding. And then we've now grown the company to just over 40 people. We relocated to Richmond about 3 years ago, and we do all of our own manufacturing in-house. So we develop the software, the electronics, hardware, and everything to do with producing the product here in Richmond in Scott's Addition. And we just recently completed our Series A round. So, we are lucky to have found some great investors that have funded us this far. We have a team of about 40 people, and Richmond's been a fantastic home for us. So we're excited to be here. And with that, I will jump into our presentation today. All right. That coming through okay?
Yep, looks good. Thank you.
Great. So here you can see behind is one of our flagship product, the Gallery. So this is a self-contained vertical farming system, and what we're really selling today is a kind of seed to plate experience for food service operations. Okay, so the gallery here on the right is really the world's most sophisticated vertical farming system of its kind. So these are self-contained vertical farms. They use hydroponics to grow crops 2 to 3 times more quickly, using 90% less water. There are no pesticides or chemicals. We have some proprietary technology in the base, which basically automatically administers nutrients, pH. It allows us to control the ventilation, lighting, etc., remotely. And that means that the user experience is simple enough that someone with no prior expertise can be successful. All they have to do is plant, harvest, and clean. We take care of the rest and alert them through an app. So they have about 50 different crop varieties they can choose from. So mostly your major leafy greens, herbs, flowers, that kind of thing. Here is a kind of collage of the farm. So when we initially started out, we were looking at these modules that we could produce at scale, and they would essentially be like rooftop solar panels are for solar energy, right? You could connect these farms together, they could fill underutilized space, and they could help people to grow their own food on site. And that is partly true today. We do have sort of half our clients are using the farms for engagement and as a teaching sort of experiential tool. And then we have a good amount of clients who are using them for becoming self-sufficient in certain ingredients. On the top right here is actually in an IKEA store down in Charlotte. And to date, we have about 225 operating locations across the US, and we have over 170 more due to go in this year. From the user experience, growing plants hydroponically is a little bit of a science experiment. So it is an emerging field that has quite a lot that goes into it. So it's fairly specialized knowledge. And prior to what we do to build your own small scale farm was really a passion project. You had to embrace the science experiment, take sensory things each day in order to be successful. And what we've tried to do is make it as easy as possible. So the users have an app that's telling them when to plant, harvest, and clean. We ship supplies to them with barcodes so that they can track what's growing in the farm, and then we can alert them when to do certain steps. And that also gives us sort of full traceability from a food safety point of view. And then we ship a subscription of supplies, so seeds, nutrients, and cleaning supplies to them. And again, that whole experience just really streamlines the process. And we like to say that none of our customers are farmers or prior farmers, and we're making them successful farmers through the subscription and support that we provide. So we pride ourselves on an all-inclusive service. So you get the hardware, as seen in this picture here. You get an app to guide you from seed to harvest, and then we include a subscription of your supplies and an account manager. We do a lot of programming and content with the farms. So, for example, in a school, we have educational curriculum. In senior living homes, we have kind of horticultural therapy and programs like that. And we found that those are really significant drivers of adoption among our customer segments. And then a fun fact, just to give you an idea of the output, each farm takes up about 15 square feet, and it has the productive capacity of about 2,000 square feet of outdoor farmland. So on the experiences side, we see a lot of use cases for our farms emerging as our install base grows. On the one hand, we have kind of fine dining use cases, right? We have the Michelin star chefs and things like that use the farms to grow high quality heirloom ingredients. But we have a lot of clients across the kind of education and healthcare sector where they're using the farms to drive the conversation around plant-based and sustainable dining. They're doing cooking demonstrations. And then, as I mentioned, we have a lot of curriculum to help integrate into their workflow. So, in a senior living home, they actually need things for the community members to do. In a school, you need teaching aids, and the farms can actually really serve a dual purpose there as a interdisciplinary educational tool. So we're really leaning into that to help kind of drive adoption and boost the kind of community engagement from the farms. A lot of what we do is around bringing people closer to their food supply. We're inspiring engagement, and putting one of these farms in your dining room, in your lobby, is a significant centerpiece, and we found that that's really helped drive conversation around kind of, again, plant-based sustainable dining. We work with a lot of nutritionists and things like that to develop specialty menu items that are grown up from the farm and really integrate into their workflow. So yeah, we have sort of 45 to 50 varieties that we can grow. Of course, we're able to grow these crops all year round. They're not shipped thousands of miles away. There's very little waste. And we've had most of our crops lab tested to demonstrate the nutrient density and showcase just how much higher quality they are than buying them conventionally. We cover most of your major salad greens, other leafy greens, and then coloring herbs. And we also do a lot of kind of heirloom microgreens and flowers. So depending on what you grow, you can have an ROI in under 24 months. We have some clients that will pack the produce up and resell it. A lot of our clients are really, well, the majority of our clients are using the produce on site. And again, for some of our crops, there's a clear ROI. For a lot, like leafy greens, there isn't one, but it really depends on the use case. And that's where we come in to work with our clients and have a use case that works for them. Sustainability reporting is really one of our kind of unique selling points. We work with most of the largest food service companies in the world, and they choose to work with us because we have the best hardware, but we also have data on every step of the growing process, and they can actually measure the efficacy of these programs across hundreds of locations all around the country, and they can use that data to help qualify for different accreditations. So ASHE STARS is a very popular one in the education sector. LEED and WELL building certifications, some of you may be familiar with, we can contribute towards those. But the crux of it is that we're providing data on every step of the user experience. They can quantify how much they're growing, and that's really helpful for showing our clients how the farms operate, and especially if they're a large food service company rolling these out to several locations, it's nice for them to be able to measure the impact of the program. We do a lot of private branding. This has been something that's particularly popular. We have, a lot of great clients here, from LinkedIn to Capital One. People are using the farms, again, as kind of a community farming experience, and we'll brand it up for them. And then behind the scenes, we are a sort of a silent sustainability partner, from leveraging social media to developing programs and initiatives. We work with our clients to develop programs to suit their organizational needs. So that could be, as I've mentioned, kind of anything from STEM education curriculum to we have corporate clients where they host farmers markets on certain days of the week, where they harvest from the farm as a team building exercise, and then they give or sell the produce through by boxing it up. So there are different kind of ways to leverage the farm, and we're there in the background kind of helping them, making their lives a little bit easier. Yeah, so just to wrap things up, the farms take between 30 minutes an hour a week to operate. They're modular, they can be wheeled in, and they can grow with just waterline electricity. We're the only UL, FCC, and CE approved microfarm on the market. Again, safety is a paramount concern to us, and we have all of the kind of industry's leading standards. We remotely manage these farms, so we're actually tracking data on everything in the farm and then controlling the environment for our clients. And then we're basically providing high levels of support to make them successful. And yeah, so that's kind of a highlight. I will add one thing that's not on here is our latest product, the STEM Garden. I'll throw a link into the chat, but we've just launched a smaller product. It's a third of the price and a third of the size, and it's designed for the education market. And so, if anyone here is listening and they're involved in the healthcare or education side, we're very interested to find local partners in the Richmond or Greater Richmond area to test out the new STEM Garden. So I'll stop there, and happy to answer any Q&A. Thank you.
Well, that was great, Alexander. I've got a lot of questions, I'm sure, and we've got some from the audience as well. But to start off, tell me, what's the genesis of the name Babylon Microfarm? How did you come up with that name?
Yeah, so Babylon is the Hanging Gardens of Babylon was one of the seven ancient wonders of the world. And when we were looking at names originally, that was one of the things we settled on is great brand name, and it's done us very well. But yeah, it's Babylon being Babylon's Hanging Gardens being one of the first hydroponic systems and one of the seven ancient wonders of the world.
So tell us, where was your first location? Where did you first put this in place someplace? Because and then then a follow-up to that, I'm going to ask, where was your first location?
It depends how you define it. So we had a lot of prototypes, the kind of prototypes that you build in a dorm room that we are not proud of, but they were necessary. So UVA's dining team took pity on us and let us put a few of them in their dining hall. So those were like technically the first customers. We did some early runs. We were in Charlottesville as students and then for a few years afterwards. And we were a lot of restaurants and kind of locations around there were our initial installs. We still have a good density there, but then since we relocated to Richmond, we also focused on a lot of national food service companies. So like Virginia is still our highest density, but a lot of our sales efforts are now kind of spread across North America and less focused as locally as they were in the early days.
So you told us that your original concept or whatever was to help food secure refugee locations. So you've pivoted away from that, I guess. Do you have any in that area?
I guess pivot away, like you have to start somewhere. And I think the challenge, when we were doing that project, looking at sort of how this could work in refugee camps, I think the thing that was obvious to us is like, well, this is all going well, but why aren't we doing it here? I think the food deserts and the need for kind of nutritional education, re-engaging with where your food comes from is a real problem that we saw here in the US. And fortunately, a lot of our customers agree that's an issue. So we just switched our attention here. And then just from a company point of view, we really focused on building the highest quality systems out there. And, I think we've successfully elevated the concept of indoor farming to something that was really didn't exist before 4 or 5 years ago. And the galleries kind of set the standard for these automated self-contained farms. And as you could probably tell, it's got a lot of industrial design considerations. And that was intentional, right? Like Tesla started with the Roadster, it's a lot easier to start higher and then move down than it is to start at the bottom. So that's really the journey we're on. We have kind of the industry's leading product right now, and then we're going to be developing lower cost systems for different markets and different crop types. And our goal is to make this as accessible as possible. So hopefully one day we'll get back to our roots of food security.
Well, what's interesting, Alexander, is that you talked about you're starting all of this in your dorm room. And I can think of one other multi-billion-dollar huge, social media company that also started in a dorm room at Harvard University, now called Facebook. So maybe you're going to be the Facebook or the social media giant of the indoor farming arena.
We'll see.
So we had a question from the audience. They're curious to know about where do you get your seeds, and also who do you hire, and what are their qualifications or requirements for your employees?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Sure. So the first question is, where do you get your seeds?
So we have a variety of suppliers. That's actually one thing we take quite seriously is the seeds you buy online are typically not great quality. And if you grow stuff at home, you may know it's kind of, it can be a bit hit or miss. And so we source from a couple of different suppliers here in the US and one in the EU. And we actually run batch tests on them. So we have kind of a horticultural test lab here in Richmond where we try all different crops, we develop recipes, and crucially we test germination rates and other things, because when we ship those seeds out to our customers, we want to have verified them internally before we're comfortable giving them to anyone to grow.
And the same audience member asked, who do you hire? What are their qualifications or requirements for your employees?
As in, we have a pretty broad spectrum across the company, right? We have, software, electrical, hardware, manufacturing, sales, customer support, all the rest. So I'd say there's no one size fits all. I will say one area that we're always looking for is like manufacturing and installation technicians. And some of the requirements we've looked for there are like previous experience with plumbing or HVAC repair. That's a common one. That's kind of a growing area of the business where we find that we're always looking for people.
We got a question
Yes,
from,
I
go ahead.
was to say, and as a rule, like we hire for aptitude and attitude, not degrees and other requirements, generally speaking. So we have some people in roles that they weren't on paper qualified for just because they were talented.
So we have a question from John Easter from Chamber RVA. He wants to know what volume can you produce out of one of those units, and how does the total cost compare to conventionally growing items?
Yeah, so again, we grow about 50 varieties, so the yields vary significantly depending on what you grow. But as a rule, we grow roughly 28 pounds of salad per month. And then if you were to use that in like a sweet green salad bowl, it's about 250 bowls of salad per farm. So, it's often a supplemental source of produce. Again, we don't actually recommend people grow salad because of the low volume. But if you were a restaurant or a location that's using microgreens or some culinary herbs, they can be very perishable, very expensive. And so using the farms gives you a higher quality product at a lower price for microgreens and some culinary herbs. And typically those are, you use less of them, right? So the yield goes a lot further.
And those figures you gave, those were per unit, per month, correct?
Correct.
Okay, got it. Just want to make sure I understood. So give us some examples of where some of these of your units are located. I mean, I mentioned a cruise ship, but you've got some other interesting locations.
Yeah, so 50% of our business is in higher education, and probably 30% is in senior living and healthcare. And then the rest is spread between nonprofits, corporate dining locations. We do a lot of workforce development, and we work like Goodwill and a few others. We've done a few international pilots. We have some farms in Ireland and in Switzerland. And then we do have one cruise ship operating. It's actually the world's first vertical farm on a cruise ship. And then we have 3 more cruise ships, I believe, coming online this year. So that's a niche market, but a fun one. I think the value proposition is pretty clear. When you're somewhere on the 7 seas, having your own farm is pretty useful. And then we do have a few projects further afield, but they're not confirmed yet.
And do you have one at Antarctica?
That is not confirmed yet, but I
Okay,
would hope it does go through because that would be very cool.
gotcha. Good. Okay. So one of our participants asks about, would Babylon be interested in an additional 30,000 square foot warehouse style space in downtown Hopewell?
No.
If she says, if not, what are the best networking spaces to connect with green and clean prospects?
I don't know how to answer that. To be honest, I think organizations like this, Startup Virginia, are probably a good bet. And yeah, unfortunately, we're not interested in any additional space at this time.
Gotcha. Good. Okay. And why did you pick Scott's Addition? You started the company in Charlottesville and you decided to move to Richmond. Why did you pick Richmond, and why Scott's Addition?
Yeah, so I'd love to say there was a grand plan. I think as the team grew, we had some people commuting from Richmond, and Charlottesville, as beautiful as a town as it is, we definitely felt the limitations there. We needed warehouse space. Richmond has a lot of that. We looked at Scott's Addition, we looked at Manchester, and we found a space here that was great. The rates were good, and I'd say in the time we've been here, the whole place is a building site, and we have apartment buildings, new apartment buildings either side of us, but. At the time, we locked in at a great rate, and it's been a great location for us and our team. And Richmond, just generally, I think you have great facilities here and a bigger ecosystem from which to kind of hire from, raise money, etc.
And are you all a B corporation? Do you have a B corporation status, or are you looking to do that?
We looked at it. I would see, as in, we're the kind of company you'd assume would fit that. I would look at the small print. I think it is, personally, having done quite a bit of research on it, it's a bit of a marketing stunt. and it's a ton of work. And I have some reservations about it. I think what they're doing is admirable and it's important, but if you look at the small print, there's a ton of work and cost associated with it, and not much tangible benefit that I can see other than the marketing side.
So we have a question from one of our the people on the webinar. She wants to know what are you looking for in education partners? She says she works for where she works with ODU to offer youth programs, and we're looking to start our own hydroponic programming. So I'm very interested. So maybe you could talk about the whole education aspect.
Yes, and Caitlin, Nicole, I'd love, please reach out. So we have the gallery and then we have the STEM garden. The gallery, I saw another question about cost is about $15,000 and then $400 a month in subscription fees. So for the right clients that want a high level of support and they're putting these farms in kind of a high visibility location, that actually tends not to be too expensive if you compare it to other kitchen equipment. But we have found in the public school system, particularly in K-12, that the price is prohibitive. And so the STEM garden is really our answer to that. It's going to be at a $6,500 price with about $50 a month subscription. And we work with a lot of schools at the moment who are implementing like STEM labs, and these farm is a tool for them. We'll also have different curriculum partners. And right now we have kind of our initial production run coming online in June. So we're looking for partners in Richmond who would want to basically be one of our early customers and potentially get some preferential rates. And then we could implement a hydroponic STEM lab that uses these STEM gardens as the kind of tool to teach kids about growing their own food, things like that. And so, I'd be happy to connect with you. And I threw a link in the chat about STEM garden on our website. So you can see a little bit more information there.
And along the same lines, another person asks about. She says, "Who tends your gardens?" She says, "I'm at Reynolds, and I'm a biology faculty, and I wonder if this would be a good place for entry-level biology tech types or horticultural graduates or culinary graduates."
So it's interesting because it's actually one of the biggest problems we face is we call them engaged operators. So who's using the farm? And this, like, everyone wants, like, demand is not the issue, but implementation is for us. So we have some power users that are chefs, sous chefs, people on the culinary team who really believe in fresh ingredients. Running gardening is fun for some people, I think a lot of people. But we do run into cases where they buy a farm and then staff turnover, staff shortage, various things, and actually getting people to use the farms can be an issue. So one of the programs we're launching, which is perhaps relevant to this, is a student internship program. We have a couple of colleges that have done this on their own, where students are getting credit through either biology or environmental science for running the farms. And so we've actually been trying to develop a sort of templatized program that we could give to schools who wanted to start farming. And then if they could get faculty buy-in, they could have student interns running the farms and getting credit as a kind of teaching tool while the produce is used in the dining room. So that's something we're super interested in. And Deborah, if you have more interest, please let me know. And we would love to kind of set up a time. And also anyone on this call, if you want to come visit, we are in Scott's Edition. So we're always hosting tours, and we'd be delighted to show people around.
And I guess along the same lines, another question from on the call here was, do you have internships or other work-based learning experience available for high school or post-secondary students?
So we do internships. I think we're kind of fully booked for this summer. On the like programming side, as in STEM garden is literally STEM. The pun, I hope, is not lost on the audience. So we're developing different continuing education and STEM like curriculum for people to use the farm specifically with the goal of teaching people at various stages of their kind of career. And we'd be happy to share more information with anyone who's interested.
Another caller wants to know, do you manufacture the equipment?
Yes, we do it all here in Richmond. And I think that is actually why we had Kamala Harris, the vice president, came and visited us last year. She held the Small Business Week address at our facility as an opportunity to highlight kind of a green tech manufacturing company that is a small business. And I think the way her team framed it was that there's this sort of misconception that you have to be Tesla or some massive, well-capitalized company to be manufacturing. And actually, there are some really exciting technology companies that are small like us, and we're here in town building stuff and doing kind of pretty advanced manufacturing in a small facility in Scott's Addition. I think a lot of people just don't even know that's possible. So we were excited to be a case study.
So someone else on the call has this question, which is similar to a question that I have about whether or not these might make sense for personal residential use. Will I be able to put this in my house at some point? Maybe that smaller STEM unit would, if I want to, instead of having to deal with planning outside, could I do this in my own? Is that something you see in the future?
Yeah, so we're not ruling it out. We do get a lot of people reaching out to us. The gallery is price prohibitive, but the STEM is definitely a step in that direction. And I see us doing something for consumers in the not too distant future.
So,
A
Alden,
lot-
go
sorry,
ahead.
and
Go ahead.
a lot of this just ties to the manufacturing sort of math. We are still producing at pretty low volume, and our costs are coming down quickly. But we're gonna need to accelerate our volumes to get the cost down further. And as we get down to kind of sub $5,000 for a unit, that starts to get into the realm where individual consumers might want to purchase.
So let's talk about a little bit about the future, where you see not only your company going, but where do you see the future? What's your future vision, I guess, for indoor farming? Now, on the company side, you talk about you hope to put up 170 more of these units here, in the US someplace. But where do you see beyond in next year and beyond, and then talk about the vision for the future for this whole industry?
Yeah, so the way to think about controlled environment agriculture, CEA, which is the sort of umbrella term, is it's a toolkit for growing food. So each of the tools in the toolkit, there's no right or wrong. They're just different uses for different applications. So, where you might need 100,000 square foot greenhouse or a 100,000 square foot indoor vertical farm, that's going to be good for certain locations. You're going to have small kind of modular solutions like us. There are other companies doing it with like shipping containers. Those are also going to be great tools for perhaps individual businesses or consumers to grow their own food. These are all tools to help people grow food indoors, so they're not shipping it thousands of miles. I think given the climate pressures that we're under, the long distance supply chains for highly perishable goods are going to diminish. And I think the indoor farming space is definitely trending towards kind of disrupting that market, whereby most of your fresh herbs and leafy greens and things that are highly perishable and typically shipped thousands of miles, that's not going to make sense. And so they're going to build vertical farms closer to the consumer, which will be, ultimately enable higher quality product with less waste. So that's kind of the toolkit. And I think the trend is very positive for the space. Again, from a climate adaptation perspective, the need is pretty present, and the indoor farms are a powerful tool to have a more resilient supply chain. And as far as where Babylon fits in, our goal is to build different modular solutions for different markets and different crop types. We've really run in our own lane, and we're kind of the leader now in small scale indoor farming systems. And we basically want to build different farms to serve different markets and crop types, and ultimately help educate and empower businesses and communities to grow some of their own food on site.
So it's interesting, Alexander, you talk about this trend towards these hydroponic farms. Here in the Richmond area, we have one out in Richmond County, Greenswell Growers, that's producing leafy greens out there and selling them at grocery stores like Food Lion and U Crops, Market Hall, places like that. And then coming on board in Chesterfield County is Plenty, which is building a vertical hydroponic farm to grow strawberries and stuff, fresh strawberries. So you're kind of in that, you're on the ground floor, so to speak, in this whole arena.
Yeah, for sure. I think Virginia, the governor's made some pledges to make Virginia the home of indoor farming. So we're excited to happen to already be in Virginia. And I think there's a lot of reasons why this state, both from a logistics point of view and an infrastructure point of view, has a real advantage for indoor farms of all shapes and sizes.
So can you give us some examples people like here in the Richmond area might be familiar with where your units are located? They're not in restaurants here, but maybe they're in Charlottesville they are, but not here.
Yeah, so we actually don't spend much of our time on restaurants, just for operational reasons. We are in VCU, University of Richmond. We have a couple of different schools and education partners, and then we're in Dominion Energy, and then also Dominion. We have a sort of corporate partnerships program where Dominion has helped put farms in I think Henrico County public schools. So, we're always looking at kind of how we could partner with large corporations and then use the farms as a workforce development tool for them. So, yeah, we have a lot of farms in that kind of arena.
This is a question from the audience, and you might have already sort of answered this, but the question is, how do you bring STEM into this whole arena? Are there any examples of curriculum?
Yeah, so science, technology, engineering, mathematics. The farms are a fantastic educational tool because there's the engineering of the farm, there's the administering of the nutrients, pH balancing, irrigation schedules, lighting schedules. All of those things can be teaching experiences for a school student, so they can literally like do the science experiment to grow a crop. They can plant the seed, they can watch it grow, they can harvest it. I think there are many ways to leverage every single touch point as a teaching experience and really hands-on learning experience that speaks to broader trends from biology, environmental science through to the chemistry behind the farm. And so as far as curriculum, I don't have any handy with me here today, but we're about to announce a couple of partners for the STEM Garden where they will have teaching guides and STEM kind of curriculum tied into the farm.
So the STEM garden, I just want to make sure I understand, the STEM garden is a smaller unit that's for educational purposes.
That's correct.
Gotcha, okay. Good. So let me ask you, give me a sense, you mentioned this, on there. What was it like to meet the vice president last year? That not everybody gets to meet the vice president or the president in person.
Yeah, I was going to say, as someone who moved to the US only, under 10 years ago, it was pretty surreal and definitely one for the bucket list and, a great honor for myself and all the team here to host the vice president in our facility. I think she was kind of continuing some of the work that Michelle Obama started, with the White House kitchen garden and other things, and clearly what we do resonates. And I think the need for it from a educational and cultural point of view is pretty strong. And we were very honored to have him visit. And very, very cool. And I was lucky enough to give the opening remarks for her address on national TV, which was another bucket list experience. So yeah, I'm not sure it's going to be happening again anytime soon, but we were very lucky to have her come visit.
That's great. That's great. So do we have any other questions from the audience? I don't see any in the chat. I think I've asked most of them. Alexander, is there anything that we haven't asked you that we should have asked you that you want to discuss?
No, I was gonna say I just put my LinkedIn link in the chat. So if anyone wants to follow up with me, that's a good place. I post a lot about our work if you want to follow along. And yeah, again, thank you so much for having me. And also, if anyone's interested in STEM programming, please reach out. I saw a few direct messages and I've written down those emails. So appreciate you tuning in, and I will follow up. And yeah, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Great. Well, Alexander, we do appreciate it. Let me just finish up the program here. Let people know what's coming up next. As I mentioned, please go to our website. You can see our various initiatives that we have. The Global Internet Hub. The I-64 Gap is now under construction. Multi-use trails. Look for an announcement, hopefully maybe this summer, about more of what we're doing there, and then also rail trail initiatives working with that. So a lot of exciting things happening in RVA757 Connects. And also, as a reminder, this webinar will be available on recording on our website later this afternoon. So I encourage you to go back if you want to listen to it, share it with others, post it on LinkedIn, whatever might be the case, to spread the word about what we're doing, and also about what Babylon Microfarms is doing as well. As a reminder, on May 1st, Wednesday, May 1st, from noon to 1, will be our discussion about Granova, which is that Richmond-based company that's developing that technology to cut down on plastic waste in laboratories. So I hope you can join us for that. The link to be able to sign up and register for that webinar will be on our website probably by tomorrow or Friday at the very latest. Thanks again to Kathy Underwood and to Donald Grawl, the CEO at Branch, for sponsoring this webinar today. Thank you again to Alexander for participating in today's webinar. It was very informative information. It was fascinating. I can't wait till you get it to a point, Alexander, where we can get it in our homes, so we don't have to go to the grocery store every day to buy our fresh greens. And then thank you all for joining us today for this edition of the Virtual Innovation Spotlight webinar. We appreciate your support, and we look forward to seeing you next month, Wednesday, May 1st, for our next issue of our webinar series. Thank you again. Have a wonderful afternoon.